Well, good morning and welcome everyone to the University of Melbourne and Open Day 2017. Now, before we start, I'd like to pay an acknowledgement to country and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, both past and present, and also my respects to all Indigenous Australians attending our session here today. My name is John Paul Collins. I'm the manager of prospective students here at the University of Melbourne. I'm a graduate of the university and I've been working in this area of prospective students and admissions for Melbourne for just on 15 years. I also wanted to highlight today, I guess we are streaming today's presentation on social media, both on Facebook and YouTube. So a big welcome to everyone who's watching on different devices, either here in Australia, in Victoria, interstate or overseas as well. And given we are filming the presentation, I'd ask if you could just check that your phones are turned to silent for the next little while. We're going to be here for around about 40 minutes or so. And I guess I'm going to talk a bit about the University of Melbourne, in detail our Melbourne Model course structure, but also too about our undergraduate and graduate courses as well. All the information that I'm talking about this morning is contained in our prospectus, which many of you can pick up today, but also all the information is also on our Future Students website of the university as well, so that if you don't pick out the information here, you can follow up online and get it in more detail as well. In terms of questions, I won't be able to take questions here in the audience given time, but I'm happy to take questions outside after the presentation because there's another presentation starting in here at 10:45, so we need to move through quickly. For those of you that are tuning in online and have any questions about the university or the Melbourne Model, you can leave them in the comments section and we'll get back to you in the next couple of days with an online response as well. So in terms of the Melbourne Model itself is something that we introduced here at Melbourne just on 10 years ago. The first year of introduction was in 2008, and it was part of the university's wider Growing Esteem strategy, which was all about setting a distinct benchmark in Australian higher education, and it was the first of its kind at the time in the country. It was a wide-ranging reform, and one of the key aspects of those reforms in the teaching and learning space is that students complete a single undergraduate degree with us at the University of Melbourne, where they specialise in major or one or possibly a second area, and then many of our students after their 3-year undergraduate degree move on to higher level, either graduate, professional or research studies, and I'll expand on that more as we move through. The scale of the change we made in introducing the Melbourne Model was substantial and ambitious, and I guess it did reflect some changes happening in the wider higher education sector, both in Australia and internationally. And also for us, it was about reflecting the way that higher education, university, college life is done in Europe, Asia and many parts of North America at the time. Also, in introducing the Melbourne Model, when we did, it was about making a point of difference here in Australia. As I mentioned, our model is unique to us, and we were the first university to move in this direction, and it really was something new and different for students at the time when we introduced the curriculum. And also underpinning it was a whole range of things in terms of developing our new graduate professional entry programs, establishing our Melbourne graduate schools, and creating what we call a distinctive Melbourne experience for our students outside of the classroom as well. So to give you a quick level summary, the Melbourne Model curriculum itself aligns with, I guess, the best and leading universities in Europe, Asia and North America, and the diagram here in a very top level sense sort of outlines our course and curriculum process here. So for many students coming into us, it's single undergraduate degree studies on the left-hand side, completed for 3 years full-time study, followed by very professional focused graduate coursework or research studies in our Melbourne graduate schools. For many of the undergraduate degrees, students are required to complete at least one, and in certain courses possibly a second undergraduate degree major. And the other aspect of our undergraduate courses is the breadth component, which requires students to complete courses outside of their home faculty, and I'll talk about breadth studies. But breadth is really about broadening students' outlooks on the world, new ways of learning, new ways of knowing, meeting students from different backgrounds, seeing things from a different perspective as well. So once students have completed their undergraduate degree, as mentioned before, it is looking at going on to either further study in a professional coursework or a research area. I guess that choice to go on to graduate study with us is a very much an informed decision after students have explored their talents and interests in their undergraduate degree, and then in the third year of the undergraduate degree making that decision, yes, I do want to go on to graduate architecture or graduate law or graduate engineering or graduate teaching or health sciences and many other areas as well. So in terms of the benefit of our Melbourne model that we offer here at the university, it's very much about students can focus from the beginning of their undergraduate degree on their chosen career from day one, but they can also keep options open and explore different areas in their breadth studies. It's all about helping students make those considered choices, and about 40% of our undergraduate students actually rethink their further study pathways once they come into their Melbourne undergraduate degree and explore all the different options as well. In terms of global recognition, it is about aligning ourselves with the best universities in other parts of the world, and also giving students that breadth and depth in terms of exploring areas and exploring different career paths as they move through their undergraduate degree. Our graduate schools themselves offer the high-level graduate master's courses, so in terms of employability, having that high-level graduate qualification is a key outcome for students in the employment market, and also too then students connect overall with our wider Melbourne experience in terms of volunteer work, student practical placements, student mobility, for example. When we talk about student mobility, it's very much focused on studying overseas. We have about 200 exchange partners in 45 countries across the world. 10 years on for our Melbourne model for next year in February, our first intake. And in terms of what we talk about is the success story or the outcomes of the Melbourne model after teaching it for almost a decade now at the university. It's a story I'm very familiar with because I was involved in the Melbourne model itself as we put it together 10 years ago. And 10 years on, there are a number of things that I guess are key benchmarks for us in terms of the outcomes of the model. One by far is our reputation and our rankings. The University of Melbourne consistently ranks #1 in Australia from the Times Higher Education World Rankings each year, so our reputation and our ranking is something that we've consistently maintained across all our 10 years of teaching the Melbourne model curriculum. Attracting the brightest and best students. Our median ATAR for 2017 entry into Melbourne was 93.4, so in terms of attracting the brightest and best students, it's something that we're continuing to do, and we do maintain that we attract the brightest and best students regardless of their background. Retention rates. The University of Melbourne has the highest retention rates in the country of any university. 95% first-year retention rate for our Melbourne courses, which is the leading position in Australia. And also too, student satisfaction with our Melbourne courses has grown. So in terms of overall student satisfaction with the teaching and learning experience, it's something that we have improved on over the last 10 years as our Melbourne model has evolved across our undergraduate and graduate courses. In terms of employability of Melbourne model graduates, 93% of our graduates are employed 4 months after graduating from their course, and we have a #1 ranking amongst Australian employers via the QS Graduate Employability Ranking from last year, 2016. There's high demand for our Melbourne courses, and we've had increased numbers, particularly of interstate students and international students coming to study with us in Melbourne. And I know some of you here in the audience are from interstate Australia and overseas as well this morning that I've spoken to, so welcome. And also too, I guess, access and equity. A key underpinning of our Melbourne curriculum is ensuring access and equity for the brightest and best students from all backgrounds and areas as well. So this year, in 2017, 34% of our domestic undergraduate students enrolled via Access Melbourne, a special entry scheme. And the Melbourne model itself has evolved since we introduced it in 2008. So since the initial introduction, for example, we've introduced a Bachelor of Science Extended and a Bachelor of Arts Extended for Australian Indigenous students, and also we've introduced what we call the Diploma of General Studies, which is another pathway program for domestic students as well. So to give you an idea, one of our students here as a Melbourne Model student moving through, Charlotte completed the Bachelor of Arts here with us at Melbourne and went on to complete the Masters of Teaching at primary. So in terms of undergraduate degree and then moving into the 2-year Masters of Teaching. So I hope that gives you a very top-level sense of what the Melbourne Model is in terms of our move towards that 10 years ago and I guess some of the outcomes that we consider the success of the Melbourne Model curriculum here at the university. What I will move on to now is, I guess, a wider sense of the university and talking about who we are and then, of course, the programs in more detail as well. There are a number of reasons why students choose to study with us at Melbourne and one of the key ones, as I mentioned earlier, is our reputation and ranking. So in terms of having that #1 in position in Australia, and those rankings are something that we're very proud of here at the university. We have a very diverse student population at Melbourne. For example, this year we have over 50,000 students here at the University of Melbourne from about 130 countries worldwide. And the diversity of our student population is also reflected in the diversity of our staff population as well, in terms of the academics that teach with us here at Melbourne from many different parts of the world as well. We are a substantial contributor to research in higher education in Australia, and we are a comprehensive research university, and so research is a key component of who we are and what we do, and one of the pillars of our growing STEAM strategy as well is our research presence here in Australia. You are here today at the Parkville campus, and specifically in the Melbourne School of Design. This building is where you are today. And I guess for many students, one of the other reasons they choose to study with us is the opportunity to study in the heart of the Melbourne CBD. We are 1 kilometre north from the Melbourne CBD, and that picture there just shows you our Parkville campus position in relation to the CBD as well. We've been here at Parkville since 1853. And so we're 164 years old this year in 2017. And while many of our students do study here at Parkville, we do have other campuses of the university as well. So specialised campuses that teach and do research in specialised areas. So for example, our South Bank campus, which is open today as well for Open Day, is where we have our Performing Arts, our Victorian College of the Arts, and our presence of the Melbourne Conservatorium of Music. We have our Burnley campus, just on the other side of Richmond, which teaches specialised areas in horticulture. We have a Werribee campus, which teaches veterinary science and includes our veterinary clinic, because when you teach veterinary science, you need room for the animals, and so Werribee is where we have all that facilities there. In regional Victoria, we also have a presence in Creswick, where we teach forest ecosystem science as well. We have a presence in Shepparton, in the town of Shepparton, where we have a rural health school. We have a presence in Dookie, a town just outside of Shepparton, where we teach agriculture. And we've increasingly started to move into online delivery of graduate study as well in certain areas. So while many of you might be looking to study at Parkville, there are other parts of Victoria where you may be studying as well, depending on what you're looking to do with us. Another key reason why students choose to study with us most definitely is our mobility experiences. I talked earlier about student mobility. Over 1 in 5 of our Melbourne undergraduate students do have an overseas study experience while they are with us. There are a range of different exciting exchange opportunities, and there's formal exchange, there are winter and summer break intensives, and also too there's significant grants, funding and available for students to go on an exchange as well. So if you are looking to go on an overseas exchange opportunity during your Melbourne degree, it's something you would start early planning in your undergraduate course with us. In terms of looking at the degrees themselves and availability for 2018 entry, this is a snapshot of our Melbourne undergraduate degrees. There are over 100 majors to choose from across them all collectively. And also too, I guess many of them have a consistent structure and format, and I'll start to walk through these in more detail as well, and you can start to see the consistencies across our Melbourne Model undergraduate degrees as a whole. Something like the agriculture degree with us at Melbourne examines key areas in agricultural production from the scientific, environmental and ethical point of view. There are 3 majors in the agriculture degree and students select one. And when we talk about a major in an undergraduate degree, it is essentially a collection of subjects at 2nd and 3rd year level that you major or specialise in one distinct area. So you come out of your degree with an area of knowledge in one distinct discipline of the wider degree that you're undertaking. Something like the arts degree covers what we call the humanities, social sciences, languages and media and communications. It's the course that I studied at the University of Melbourne when I studied last century. In 1998 I studied here, so it's a course that's dear to my heart. You can generally double major in most areas of the arts degree. Many of the modern languages that are listed there also have beginners, intermediate and post Year 12 streams. And it is the first course that we were teaching at Melbourne in the 1850s onwards. It has a Year 12 English prerequisite as well, and as I mentioned earlier, there is a 4-year Bachelor of Arts extended program for Australian Indigenous students. In terms of the way the arts degree is put together, and this gives you, it's just a sample course plan, so it is just a sample, but it shows you how the courses are constructed. So this is an arts degree first year, second year and third year, 24 subjects in total, 8 subjects per year, 4 subjects per semester. And in this example, this student double majored in criminology and psychology, also completed a foundation subject, which is the green subject in first year. And then on the right-hand side in the orange is what we call the Brett studies. And as I mentioned before, the Brett studies are the studies outside of your core faculty. So it is very much about studying areas outside of your core discipline to give you that broader outlook on the world and to mix with different students and just to give a different perspective to complement your existing core studies in your degree. And you'll see the Brett studies coming out in the other examples as well. The Bachelor of Biomedicine with us is very much about the area that creates, sustains and threatens human life. It opens up a number of graduate pathways into the health graduate science programs and health programs. There are 12 majors for the Bachelor of Biomedicine for 2018 entry, and you complete one of the 12 in your course. And the Bachelor of Biomedicine has an English, mathematics and chemistry prerequisite requirement as well. So to give you an example, for the Bachelor of Biomedicine here, course structure, first and foremost, there are a number of compulsory subjects in the Bachelor of Biomedicine, which are all the purple subjects that are moving through. So all those purple subjects are compulsory, which means that the Bachelor of Biomedicine students somewhat have an intensive cohort experience as they move through together. The majors completed in the third year, and once again on the right-hand side, in the orange, you see the Brett studies as well. The Bachelor of Commerce is our business course at the University of Melbourne. You can double major in most areas. There are 7 majors available. Double majors are available in most areas with the exception of actuarial and business studies. There are standalone majors, and for commerce there's an English prerequisite as well as a mathematics prerequisite as well. Here in the example you'll see for the course structure for commerce there are a number of compulsory subjects across the first and second year in green, so they're compulsory commerce subjects. In this example it's a double major in accounting and marketing, and once again on the right hand side the Brett studies as well. The Bachelor of Design. Bachelor of Design taught here in the Melbourne School of Design where you are this morning. It's all about the application of design thinking to a range of contexts to solve problems both now and into the future. You can double major in many areas of the Bachelor of Design. There is a Year 12 English prerequisite, however there is no portfolio interview required and selection is based purely on academic merit. And that's one of the key features of the selection process. And a number of new areas that we're teaching in the Bachelor of Design this year as a new course. So for example, this is the first time we've formally taught areas like digital technologies, graphic design and performance design. And if you are interested in hearing more about the Bachelor of Design, the Bachelor of Design session is in this theatre at 10:45, and my colleague Andrew is going to be delivering that. He's up the front. So if you want to hear about design, stay around afterwards and you can learn more as well. And this is a design degree with a major in architecture as an example, and once again on the right-hand side, the Brett Studies component as well. The Bachelor of Fine Arts is very much about elite intensive studio arts training in an intensive cohort experience. It's taught at our South Bank campus as part of the Victorian College of the Arts. And while there are a number of specialisations, students can apply for each one of those specialisations separately, but if you were to receive a course offer for the Bachelor of Fine Arts, you only study one specialisation. It is talent audition-based entry, so the emphasis is on the audition, and there is a Year 12 prerequisite English as well for the Bachelor of Fine Arts. And this is just an example of the theatre major in the Fine Arts degree. and once again emphasising that intense cohort experience. The different specialisations of fine arts take in different cohorts of students, some of them quite intimate, only 25 to 30, and some of them larger, up towards maybe 80 or 90 students a year down at the BCA. Music covers music. It's probably the most self-explanatory of our courses at Melbourne, taught at the Melbourne Conservatorium of Music. Here, a number of specialisations that students can choose from, and once again, a talent audition-based entry for the Bachelor of Music with a Year 12 prerequisite. And this gives you an example of the music production major in the Bachelor of Music, and once again on the right-hand side, the Brett Studies. How you put together your Brett Studies in your undergraduate degree is really up to you. Around about half of our students are doing something like this, which is more of a random mix of subjects each semester. So they're doing different subject areas that interest them at the time. Another half of our students are doing what we call a Brett Tract, which is a formal sequence of the same Brett Studies moving from first year, second year into third year. So to give you an example, we have a number of, let's say, Bachelor of Commerce students who are doing a language from the arts faculty, first year, second year and third year. We have lots of science students doing music, because many times students that are keen scientists are also musicians as well, because it uses similar parts of the brain, and that's just a pattern. Another example is we have lots of commerce students who are doing let's say, other areas like design as well. So it's really up to you how you put those Brett Studies together based on your prerequisites coming into Melbourne and what your interest areas are at the time. And part of our course advice is talking to you about how to best optimise your Brett Studies for your course. And the other big one at Melbourne is science. Science at Melbourne, physical sciences, earth sciences, life sciences, maths and stats, engineering and IT, 41 different subject areas. At the moment, it's the largest course we have at Melbourne for the undergraduate intake. It's a staggeringly large amount of science available, and they break them down into subject packages at the beginning of first year to help students navigate the different options. So you might, in the first year, do the life sciences packages, the engineering systems packages and the chemical sciences, and then at the beginning of second year, think about what you might want to major in. Science is so large and comprehensive, and while many of you might be doing mathematics, physics, chemistry and biology at high school, that's great and wonderful, and you can do those at first year, don't be afraid to try new areas in science that you've always wanted to do, because first year university is your chance to do that. I mentioned earlier the Bachelor of Science also has a 4-year extended program for Australian Indigenous students, and the science degree has an English prerequisite, a maths prerequisite, as well as one of the lab-based sciences. And when we say lab-based sciences, either physics, chemistry or biology, or 2 mathematics. And I'll talk about prerequisites in a moment. And in this example, this student did a major in environmental science. We have 1-year concurrent diplomas at Melbourne. These are something that students can add on as a 1-year qualification on top of, in addition to their undergraduate degree. It's available alongside most of our undergraduate degrees, but it's something you would apply for upon entry into the university. So you would need to receive an undergraduate offer first, and as part of your enrolment process, then you would investigate applying for a concurrent diploma in the 4 areas that are listed there. In terms of entry requirements for undergraduate students, what I've listed there on the slide is the entry requirements for both domestic and international secondary school leavers in Australia. I will highlight that all this information is on our Future Students website. If you are undertaking other qualifications or other curriculums, you can look at our Future Students website and our course search database, which lists a number of international curriculums and all the Australian Year 12 programs, including the IB as well. Most undergraduate courses have a 2-stage selection process, the first being prerequisites, which are subjects you need to have completed in your secondary schooling up to a certain standard and mark, and do refer to either the prospectus or the Future Students website for specific requirements about levels of entry for prerequisite subjects, and then after that it's overall academic merit for selection. So what I've listed there is the 2017 domestic clearly in rank, which was the entry standard for domestic students to get into our courses this year in 2017. And then I've also listed the guaranteed ATAR for international students for 2018 entry. You'll note that fine arts and music don't have a published ATAR. That's because they do select via that range of criteria that I talked about before as well. And if you are a tertiary transfer student, so let's say you're studying elsewhere at another institution, we would be looking at your tertiary results or your weighted average mark for the purposes of selection. In terms of applying to the University of Melbourne, all domestic students apply through the Victorian Tertiary Admission Centre, VTAC. And that's domestic students who are in secondary schools in Australia, that's tertiary transferring students and domestic students studying overseas. For international students in secondary schools here in Australia apply through VTAC, but all other cohorts of international students apply directly to the university itself. For domestic students for selection, we have Access Melbourne. Access Melbourne is our special entry access scheme, all about looking at circumstances of long-term hardship, long-term disadvantage for domestic students to be selected into our Melbourne undergraduate courses. It's a very generous entry scheme in terms of the circumstances we can take into consideration, and one of the key benefits is that each year we do select a number of students below the clearly in rank via Access Melbourne. And as I mentioned before, it was 34% of our students this year in the domestic cohort were selected via Access Melbourne. There's a number of criteria that students can identify under for their Access Melbourne application, and you can apply for more than one category that you may identify or be eligible for. A number of the categories do require supporting documentation and supporting letters of reference via those, professionals or people involved in your wider personal and family circumstances. And for domestic students, we really do encourage you to start the conversation now with your secondary school about your eligibility for Access Melbourne, because applications for Access Melbourne for domestic students close through VTAC on the 10th of October at 5 p.m, and that's a hard closing deadline. We do have three categories where we do provide a selection guarantee for undergraduate domestic students via Access Melbourne. One is for students that are eligible under the financial disadvantaged background and or applicants from a rural or isolated area. And also the new one we have for 2018 entry is a selection guarantee for Australian Indigenous students as well. For these selection guarantees, prerequisites do need to be satisfied and met for the course, but also too, it does mean that it gives students who are eligible in these cohorts an amount of selection certainty, and they can call us in December once their Year 12 results are released, and we can confirm who is eligible for this selection guarantee. So it's once again part of the benefits of the program for students in these categories, and you can check online the Access Melbourne website your eligibility for these guarantees alongside all the other requirements for Access Melbourne as well. But really do start that conversation with your school because they know you best in terms of your circumstances. Scholarships, we have a range of scholarships at Melbourne, and we've just launched a new scholarships website and a new scholarships brochure as well. So if you haven't got the scholarships brochure today, come and see us and my colleagues at the Sydney Myer Asia Centre in the admissions area. We have a whole range of scholarships based on academic merit, access and equity. Our residential colleges give out a range of scholarships, prizes, grants, bursaries and awards each year, and there's scholarships to help student mobility. And while some of our scholarships are about commencing students when you come in and start your course, once you're in your Melbourne degree, whether it's undergraduate or graduate, there's a range of scholarships available along the way as well. So really do look into scholarships. There are a range available. One course of interest in particular in terms of scholarship assistance is our Melbourne Chancellor Scholarship. It's for very high achieving secondary school leavers here in Australia and Australian citizens who have completed an Australian Year 12 or the IB overseas. It is at the top level of academic merit, so students who receive an ATAR of 99.0 or 99.5 or a 45 in the IB diploma. There's a range of benefits, and I recommend those that might be looking at the Chancellor's program to check the website. I'll also be delivering a presentation on the Melbourne Chancellor Scholarship later on today as well. And I should also highlight there are presentations on Access Melbourne today as well for those that are looking to get more detail on Access Melbourne. I mentioned graduate study before, and this gives you a quick overview of some, but not all, of the professional entry graduate programs that we offer at Melbourne. The courses offered in our graduate school are high-level graduate professional qualifications. And for us about Melbourne, like I said, it's very much making that informed choice to go on to graduate school, doing your 3-year undergraduate degree, perhaps going on exchange, doing some different areas in breadth, and then at the end of your 2nd year and into your 3rd year, making that informed choice to go on to graduate study. So for our students, it's very much about being curious in their undergraduate degree and then going, yes, in 3rd year, I'd like to apply for a few graduate programs and move on forward from there. The graduate programs themselves do vary in length. The professional masters from 2 years up to 4 years full-time study. Overall, we have over 400 graduate programs at Melbourne. So the ones that are listed here are just some of the ones in the professional space. And when we talk about professional space, it's about qualifying to practice in these professions or fields. But alongside these is a much wider group of other graduate programs that you can speak to our graduate schools about today. For certain school leavers coming into our Melbourne undergraduate courses, there are guaranteed pathways from your Melbourne undergraduate degree into certain Melbourne graduate professional programs based on your ATAR as well as eligibility and prerequisite requirements. I guess keep in mind for those guaranteed graduate pathways, it's probably a conversation you can have with us once you get your ATAR at the end of Year 12, and then we can determine which graduate guarantees you may be eligible for. Graduate entry is competitive, so each of our graduate programs has a range of selection criteria that they select for. I'll talk about some examples now, but you can definitely look at the website for the graduate program of your interest and determine what the eligibility criteria are and speak to our graduate school colleagues today. If you are applying for graduate study at Melbourne, whether it's graduate coursework or research, all applications are direct to the university, so it's a direct application. Something like engineering at Melbourne. Engineering at Melbourne is 5 years full-time study. 5 years. It's engineering from day one in your undergraduate degree, in either your science degree, your design degree, or even biomedicine. And depending on which undergraduate degree you would do for that pathway, depends on what type of area of interest you have with engineering. So the largest availability of engineering systems majors is in the science degree, followed then by the design degree, and then there's one area available in the Bachelor of Biomedicine. So if you are looking at engineering, look at those 3 different courses depending on what type of engineering systems you're wanting to do. And then it's selection, competitive selection into the 2-year Masters of Engineering. The Masters of Engineering at Melbourne is accredited under Engineers Australia, Engineers New Zealand. It's got URACE accreditation as well as Washington Accord accreditation for North America, UK and Ireland as well. So 5 years full-time study, 3-year undergraduate degree plus a 2-year Masters of Engineering qualification. Psychology at Melbourne is 6 years full-time study. Psychology is available as a major in the arts degree and the science degree. Exact same psychology, just offered across 2 different degrees. There's then an honours year and then selection into the 2-year Masters of Psychology. Architecture offered in the Melbourne School of Design where you are today. For many students, it's about doing the undergraduate Bachelor of Design degree where you would major in architecture. And then based on your grade point average or your weighted average mark as well as a statement and folio presentation, selection into the 2-year Masters of Architecture. So 3-year undergraduate degree, 2-year Masters, 5 years full-time study. Dental surgery at Melbourne, 7 years full-time study in total, 3-year undergraduate degree with either, say, our science degree or our biomedicine degree or equivalent, and then selection based on the requirements listed there into the 4-year Doctor of Dental Surgeries. Law at Melbourne. Law is offered at the graduate level in the Melbourne Law School through the Juris Doctor. Juris Doctor being the name of the graduate law qualification in the North American context as well. Selection into law is based on selection from any undergraduate degree, so students can really come in from any undergraduate degree, either at Melbourne or elsewhere, alongside their performance in what's called the LSAT, the Law School Admissions Test. So law is 6 years full-time study, and in those 6 years students graduate with an undergraduate degree first, and then the graduate law qualification, the Juris Doctor. Medicine at Melbourne, 7 years full-time study. Pathways through either our science degree or our biomedicine degree or an equivalent course elsewhere. And then selection into the 4-year MD is based on a student's performance in their undergraduate degree, in prereq subjects, in physiology, anatomy and biochemistry, the GAMSAT aptitude test and the multi-mini interview as well. So selection into Melbourne, a combination of grades, aptitude and communication skills for those 7 years, 3-year undergraduate degree, 4-year higher level masters as well. Other areas in the graduate health sciences also include physiotherapy, optometry, nursing and social work, which are all offered as graduate courses ranging from 2 years to 4 years full-time study as part of our wider graduate health sciences offering at Melbourne. And the other one is teaching. Teaching at Melbourne offered undergraduate degree first and then selection into the 2-year Masters of Teaching. So teaching graduates coming out at a slightly older age, having completed 5 years full-time study and with substantial preparation to teach in the classroom. So the 3-year undergraduate degree and the 2-year Masters to help students and transition into the school context, and whether that's secondary school, primary school or early childhood teaching as well. And before I finish up, I will highlight accommodation. Accommodation at the University of Melbourne, there are a range of accommodation options, and over the next few years we are looking to expand the range of accommodation that we offer as well at the university. We have a number of residential colleges at the university, and those residential colleges offer both undergraduate and graduate accommodation to students. All our residential colleges have their own unique and distinct features and differences, and I encourage you, all of those here today, to have a look at the colleges. They really do vary in their shape, in their size, in their offerings. Some are more Harry Potter than others, so really have a look at the colleges and have an experience with them today. They're open until 4 p.m, like the Parkville and South Bank campuses are. Selection into the colleges is based on the wider picture of who you are and what you'll contribute to that college community. So while selection into the university is based on academic merit, as I talked about earlier, selection in the colleges is all about who you are and what you'll contribute. You'll need to submit a resume, you need to have letters of reference from your high school teachers, and you need to do an interview to be considered for the colleges. You would apply by the end of October for the residential colleges, and then you would have an interview with your college of first preference somewhere in November. But you won't get an offer for the colleges until you get an offer for the University of Melbourne first, via the VTAC process next year. And I do emphasise the graduate accommodation available in colleges as well, which is quite unique and different to the undergraduate accommodations that's available. There are other aspects of accommodation. So while colleges is one option, we do have student apartments, share housing and homestay. We have a housing website for the university which has a housing portal and a notice board, so all available accommodation options are posted on that notice board. And there's also resources in there about cost of living calculators to help you choose the accommodation that's best suited to where you're at and where you might be at in terms of your budget and what type of accommodation arrangement you are looking for. That formally ends my qualification today. My presentation. It's a presentation, isn't it? I've done my qualifications here, I've moved on. Ends my presentation today. I encourage you all to take time to have a look around here today at Parkville and South Bank campuses and the residential colleges. For those of you, before we move out, those of you staying for the Bachelor of Design session, stay where you are. But for the rest of you, we're going to actually encourage you in a moment just to move out this door here, because there's a group of people out there looking to come in. So if they come in and you go out that way, that's the best way to ease the traffic. I look forward to seeing many of you in the future here, hopefully at Melbourne. Best of luck with your current studies. And if you've got any questions, you can meet me outside. I can stand out there and have any questions for you. But good luck and enjoy the rest of the morning. Thank you.